Welcome to the very first episode of the Piatti Tennis Team Podcast, where we explore what it really takes to build stronger, faster, and more resilient tennis players. I'm your host, Dalibor Sirola, and I'm excited to start this journey with you. Whether you are a player looking to level up your game, a coach focused on athlete development, or simply someone who loves to learn about tennis performance, this show is for you. Each episode will dive into the physical and mental demands of the modern game, from movement efficiency, strength training to recovery, nutrition, mindset, and so on. In this episode, we break down 6 essential factors to consider when designing training program for tennis players. Anywhere from understanding infrasternal angle types to interpreting force play data, here you will find some useful information on how to create smarter, safer, and more efficient training plans and programs. So the first one is the infrasternal angle and why it matters. The infrasternal angle is an angle formed by costal cartilages of the lower ribs, and in fact is a representation of an individual respiratory strategy. As we all know, there are only 2 of them, so it's inhalation or exhalation, which we should understand as expansion and compression. It is a key anatomical landmark and can provide insight into an individual body mechanics and movement patterns. In general, we should distinguish between wide ASI, which is more than 100 degrees, and narrow one, which is less than 80 degrees. Wide infrasternal angle is a presentation of axial skeleton in the exhaled, internally rotated position. So lower ribs are compensation to be able to inhale. Usually these athletes in very high percentage have increased spinal curves. Generally they are more stiff and rigid with limitations in flexion, abduction, and external rotation. Narrow infrasternal angle is the presentation opposite of axial skeleton. So it's in the inhaled, externally rotated position. So lower ribs are compensations to try to push the air out. So these athletes have decreased spinal curves. Usually they are hypermobile with limitation in the extension, adduction, and internal rotation. So based on all of this, we don't need to be a rocket science to understand that we can train these 2 different athletes with the same approach. And this should make a huge impact on how we plan and program everything from the warm-up to conditioning into the strength training. If you are not familiar with this concept, I encourage you to learn about PRI, Postural Restoration Institute, and their methodology that identifies and treats postural and movement dysfunctions caused by asymmetrical muscle patterns. Now, let's move to the second one, which we should take into consideration when we plan and program training strategies, which is whether we are dealing with stiff or hypermobile athlete in general. So in my opinion, everybody in our industry should already understand that stiff and rigid athletes need to focus more on mobility and improving their usable range of motion, while obviously from the other hand, hypermobile athletes need to prioritize stability and motor control training. We all know that athletes need to be strong, stable, and compound on the court or the field. But how much all of this is enough? Or maybe better question is when it's too much. And that is especially important for the athletes that are missing mobility, flexibility. For example, I can train a guy who, let's say, can lift 150 kilo in the trap bar deadlift for 8 reps. And then we decide in the next training block, we will try to increase this by 5%. And so we plan everything correctly. And at the end of the cycle, he's really able to lift 157.5 for 8 reps. But now imagine his vertical jump stayed the same. The 10-meter sprint becomes slower, and his internal rotation, which was limited before, become even more restricted. So do you understand the point here? Instead of focusing mainly on pure force production, and with this creating more system stiffness, I should try to give him a more usable range of motion to more easily express the movement potential and to learn to express force through efficient co-contraction, system tension and relaxation, coordinating better kinetic chains for more efficient transfer of energy. In this case, I will bet he will move better, recover faster, and overall feel better on the court. To determine if your athlete falls under any of these two categories. You can use anywhere from well-standardized screens like FMS or FMSA, or you can simply do this by using a battery of assessment by checking passive and active range of motion for all major joints like ankle, hips, thoracic spine, and shoulders. While doing all of this, you can already have an idea if athlete is more geared toward rigidity or fluidity. And if you notice someone has a good or above average flexibility, mobility level, I suggest you do Baton joint hypermobility screen to determine if there is a case of joint laxity, especially with the female players. The third factor to consider would be injury history. So athletes with a past injury are much higher risk of re-injury or new injuries. They tend to create more muscle imbalances syndromes with postural dysfunctions compared to those with no prior injuries. Moreover, the single best predictor of future injury is a previous injury. So this is likely due to a combination of factors, including incomplete healing, altered movement patterns, or just psychological factors. Because of this, when planning for athlete with a history of injury, the program must include a strong pre-rehabilitation component, which, whenever possible, should be developed in collaboration with the medical team. So with this kind of athletes, we should always adapt training plans around their injured area. Let's take an example. If someone has lower back problems throughout their career, it doesn't make sense to overload with, overload their back with, a lot of jumping or heavy back squatting. As a far better approach will be to keep adequate core strength, good mobility of the hips and thoracic spine with domination of split stance or single leg work while training in the gym. Let's move to the fourth factor, which is developmental stage. So train the athlete in front of you. I hope we all understand that it's not the same if you train an 18-year-old and 33-year-old tennis player. Training a youth athlete is widely different from working with experienced one. Youth athletes need more quantity work, adjust to specific age and windows of opportunities that they can develop. They need strength, foundation, speed, mechanics, and conditioning. Planning for older players is more about managing their training versus competitions. They absolutely need more individualized quality work, pre-rehab, and soft tissue management with a less is more approach outside the court. Planning must respect the developmental stage, not just in terms of biological age, but also the training age. While planning sometimes can be identical for, let's say, top and low level or young athletes, programming, which means volume, intensity, frequency can be completely different. When I look at my plans, they are quite similar for all players, regardless of age or level. On the other hand, training density, durations, exercise selections, and intensities are very adaptive and appropriate to the athlete in front of me. Next one is the force plate profiles. So data that matters. These extremely sensitive platforms are equipped with sensors that capture the forces applied during activities like standing, walking, running, or jumping. By measuring ground reaction forces, force plates can help analyze jump performance, gait, and other dynamic movements, providing valuable insights for performance enhancement and injury prevention. In essence, force plates provides objective data about how an individual interacts with the ground, allowing for a more detailed understanding of their movement and performance. When testing, for example, counter-moving jump, we are using general athletic movement to assess general physical qualities. Between other things, a force plate gives you information if your athlete is a force dominant or velocity dominant. Does he struggle to produce force quickly or absorb it eccentrically in essence? Force plates show you where the athlete is located on the strength to speed continuum. This information can guide your entire approach from strength training approach to power or plyometric progressions. Another advantage of force plates is when you work with an injured athlete, it can give you valuable info during the return to play protocol. The sixth important factor to understand is the physical testing results. Approach to physical testing should focus on detailed evaluation to understand the athlete's strengths and weaknesses. This involves assessing various physical qualities like movement capacity, endurance, speed, agility, strength, and power. The goal is to create personalized training plans and programs that addresses individual needs and maximize results. Baseline tests help players optimize their performance by addressing areas that need more improvement. From my experience, the best athletes always try to work on their weaknesses to maximize their overall performance potential. So, there you have it. 6 key pillars for smarter tennis training: infrasternal angle, mobility type, injury history, developmental stage, force plate profiling, and fitness gaps. Whether you're a coach, trainer, or even a player yourself, this is how you should be thinking whenever you decide to make a training block to increase the levels of your performance. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay focused, play with the heart, and always go for your shots.